of the Rebbe to learn Hilchos Abchira in the May Metzorim. There's also a connection with Tzedakah and Tefillah. We have the honor today to have a Choshev in German, a Melamed in our Cheder, Rav Ráubén Bochumberg. Please give us some insight into the building of the Beis HaMikdash.
So we know there's a mitzvah of binyan Beis HaMikdash. The Rambam explains in Halacha Yud Beis, Ein boinim es HaMikdash b'layla. We do not build the Beis HaMikdash at night. And what's the raya that we don't build the Beis HaMikdash at night? The raya is from Parshas Ba'aloscha, where there it says, Ubeyoim hakim es hamishkan. So we learn out, Beyoim makimim lebalayla. So the establishment of the Beis HaMikdash, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, there is the commandment to build it, but not at night. It says, Ve'oiskim bebinyan me'alis hashachar ad tzeis hakechovim. The Rambam uses the lashon Ve'oiskim bebinyan. I saw in one of the Sfarim, it could be that the idea is included in this idea is also the preparation for the building could be something that must also be done during the day. Otherwise, it would have just said, Uboinim me'alis hashachar ad tzeis hakechovim. Over here, the Rambam is precise in his lashon and uses the lashon ve'oiskim bebinyan. Now, the binyan of the Mikdash is done me'alis hashachar ad tzeis hakechovim. This is based from a pasuk in Nehemiah. I'm just going to read to you the pasuk. It says in the pasuk, "V'anachnu oisim b'melacha," and we're doing in the work of Hashem, of doing the Beis HaMikdash. This was during the time of building the second Beis HaMikdash. V'chetzia machzikim b'rimachim, and half of the population, half of people have rimachim, spears, in order to guard the surroundings so that they should not be attacked by enemies. And it says, and the melacha is me'alos hashachar ad tzeis hakechovim. There is a Tosfos that mentions there's a certain chiddush in the fact that it was from alos hashachar, because really most people start their work a little bit later by the rising of the sun, by Netz HaChama. And over here we see that the Yidden were very happy to fulfill that commandment, and they even were makdiming the time to build, and that was alos hashachar. From alos hashachar starts the ability to do the Beis HaMikdash. Now the Rambam continues and says, "Ve'akol chayovim livnos." Everyone is commanded to build. V'sad v'atzam uv'mamoinam. People had to provide themselves and also with their money. Anoshim, benashim, kemikdash hamidbar. Similar to the Mishkan, we know everyone was involved in the Mishkan, especially in the donations of the Mishkan. Everyone donated from their own money. Anoshim, noshim betaf. And even we know the women were involved in the spinning of the wool. And we see there's this idea that everyone was involved for the Mishkan. So the same way by the Mishkan, there was this involvement. So we learn out that by the Beis HaMikdash as well, we also must have the involvement of everyone. Hakal chayovim. Now there is a shaila that is brought down by the Hagat Shaver. It's a shaila that the Rebbe in a Sichos addresses. We just explained that the binyan Beis HaMikdash should be done during the day. And we know that mitzvahs shazman grama, time-bounded mitzvahs, women are potter. So how is it possible that the Rambam includes women by saying Hakol Chayovim, the binyan Beis HaMikdash, if we know that the binyan Beis HaMikdash is a time-related mitzvah from alos hashachar till Tzeis HaKechoven. Another question the Rebbe has is, seemingly the Binyan Beis HaMikdash is not just a Chovas Gavra, it's a Chovas HaTzibur. The community is supposed to be arranging this Binyan. So what does it mean every individual is chayav to do so? There's a few explanations to this. On a general level, the Rebbe answers in a Sikha with one answer. The answer is the following. The Rambam over here is not speaking about the Chovas Gavra, that there's an individual chiyuv for man, woman to build a Beis HaMikdash, but we're speaking about a Chovas Chefza, that the Beis HaMikdash must be built through Anoshim B'Noshim. It's not a chiyuv in the Gavra, and automatically our questions are answered. There is a Ragat Shavit that mentions the question about the Noshim as well. Ragat Shavit gives two possibilities. I'll just briefly mention it. It's mentioned that the woman don't have a chiyuv to build the actual Beis HaMikdash. So anything that is related to the actual building, they are going to be potter. But since women have an obligation to bring karbanos, there's several karbanos, they have a chiyuv. So therefore, they have the responsibility to ease in making the karbanos happen. It's not on one foot, but this is one of the things the Rebbe mentions in one of the sikhs. To continue, the Rambam continues and says, "Ve'en mevatlin tinuk shel beis rabban lebinyan." We do not, we're not mevatel the learning of the tinuk shel beis rabban for the binyan Beis HaMikdash. Now the question is why, and really the Rambam answered that few svarim earlier. We're currently learning it in the Rambam. It was in Hilchos Talmud. The Rambam writes that the whole entire world is sustained and is being mikuyim by the Hevel Tinekes, the Hevel Shen Beichet. This is what keeps the world standing, and therefore we cannot afford for the Tinekes of Beis Rabban to take a small break from their learning, because the whole world depends on the learning of the Tinekes Shel Beis Rabban. The Rambam writes, "Ve'en binyan Beis HaMikdash derech Yom Tov." It's interesting why the Rambam chooses to say that. Perhaps the Rambam could have chosen to say that the binyan Beis HaMikdash is not derech Shabbos, and perhaps we could make a kal v'chomer from that. But the Kesef Mishnah brings down that the mocker of the Rambam to say such a thing is in the Gemara in Shavuos. So there in the Gemara in Shavuos, it explains the pasuk quoted in Chumash. Let me read to the pasuk. The pasuk reads as the pasuk is. Just find the pasuk. Okay, it's Sapshisha Tishmeiru Umigdashi Tirou Ani Hashem. So from this pasuk, the Gemara in Shavuos learns out that since both the Mikdash and the person are mechoyev in the kibud of Hashem, therefore the Beis HaMikdash may not be built on Shabbos. And Rashi Al-Asar says that as well. I'm just quoting Rashi. Rashi says, "V'ava pi she'ani mazhira al hamikdash, es abshisat tishmeru." Even though I'm commanding you about the Beis HaMikdash, about the Mishkan, es abshisat tishmeru, you should nevertheless keep the Shabbos. And binyan Beis HaMikdash derech Shabbos, the binyan Beis HaMikdash is not derech Shabbos. And the Gemara over there in Shavuos just makes a small connection, and we explain that Yom Tov is called Shabbos as well. So since we see that the Beis Hamikdash is not built on Shabbos, we learn that as well for Yom Tov, because Yom Tov is also called Shabbos. Just to conclude with a word in Avodas Hashem, the Rebbe says, we know that in order for the Shekhinah to rest and to permeate into this world, everything is totally in Avodas HaAdam, in the person's Avodas Hashem. And we see that's why the Bin Beis Hamikdash, we need people's money, people to help out. This is part of the Dira B'Tachtenim that Hashem wants us to accomplish. It has to come through our personal effort. And a person might feel, I'm in a very, very low spiritual state. I'm very, very dry in my Avodas Hashem, and things don't go so well in my Avodas Hashem. And a person might fall into despair and feel, how could I build my inner Mishkan, my inner Beis Hamikdash? I'm right now in a spiritual desert. That's why the choice of word of the Rambam is very precise. The Rambam writes that you're supposed to be boine the Beis Hamikdash ke Mikdash sheba midbar. We're talking about a Mikdash that's in a midbar, it's in a desert. So even though a person might find himself in a spiritual desert, don't worry. This is part of the plan. And Hashem tells us that even though we find ourselves in this spiritual desert, precisely in this Mamidu Matzav, and in this situation, Hashem wants us to make a Mishkan, a dwelling place for Hashem, because the ultimate presence of Hashem is revealed when we are utilizing all of our koiches in the deepest way, in the deepest challenges. And Hashem, we should have discussed of the Rebbe, take of Miyad Mamash.
I just wanted to ask if anybody has a siyum that he wants to give the opportunity to Mzake, please come up and tell me.